Hi everyone, this is Meb Keflezighi, Boston marathon champion, New York City marathon champion, and an Olympic silver medalist, and you're listening to a Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome back, or welcome to the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by the Gold Coast Marathon and Pogo Physio. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. Each week, we'll aim to bring you the highs, the lows, and the learnings of the featured guests. We do this through featured performers, expert editions, coaches' corners, and interest editions. And today, episode 165, it's a great pleasure to share with you a conversation I recently had with one of endurance running's most prolific champions, US 4-time Olympian, Meb Keflezighi. Meb Keflezighi boasts one of distance running's most impressive bios. Meb is the only runner in history to have won a New York Marathon title, Boston Marathon title, and Olympic Marathon medal. In 2004, Meb won a sterling silver medal in the 2004 Athens Olympic Marathon before missing out on the 2008 Beijing Games and running on to the 2012 and 2016 Olympic Marathons. Meb featured in the 10,000 metres at the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games, was the American record holder for the 10,000 metres, running an incredible 27:13 PB across the distance. Meb has PBs of 13:11 for the 5,000 metres right through to his marathon PB of 2:08:37 set on that so memorable day, the 2014 Boston Marathon. Meb took the Boston Marathon title, an emphatic victory that day, 1 year after the devastating bombings of 2013. Even more special about Meb's 2014 Boston Marathon victory was that he did it just a few weeks shy of his 39th birthday. Meb's career has been hallmarked by longevity. Meb competed in 26 professional marathons, and he has just released a book of that name, 26 Marathons, which is a behind-the-scenes look at the highs and the lows of each of those marathons. At the time of recording, I had just finished the book on audio version, and I've got to say it's a must-read for any sports lover and certainly for any avid runner. Meb has a total of 5 world major medals, has been the 3 times national cross-country champion for America, has won a coveted 4 times NCAA Championships, is the founder of Meb Foundation, which aims to maintain balance and be a positive lifestyle choice education tool for school kids, has authored 5 books, 26 marathons, Eat Like a Champion, How to Run, Run to Overcome, and Meb for Mortals. And on top of all that, is a dedicated family man with his 3 beautiful girls and wife, Jordanis. And on today's episode, Meb shares his best tip for debut marathoners, his best tip for seasoned marathoners chasing a PB or PR, tips for longevity, putting Murphy's Law to work for you, the importance of having backup goals when taking on a challenge, key training attributes, the highs, the lows, and of course, Meb survives the physical performance round. Here is my conversation with Meb Keflezighi. This is a true thrill and honour for a passionate runner to be able to today bring you a conversation with really one of the greats of all times in distance running, Meb Keflezighi. So Meb, welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Thanks for having me, Brad. Appreciate it.
Meb, a question I'd like to start with is, what's one thing you are on the other side of your competitive running career, which spanned 26 marathons, as per your recent book, and so much more than that. What's one thing you're learning at the moment in life, Meb?
Well, I think I'm honored to be able to share my stories of my 26 marathon through what I have learned through faith, identity, running, and life. And every day is a learning experience. I think what I'm learning is patience is a virtue still, whether it's running or competing or training. And in life is something that, sometimes when you're running, you take it for granted because that's your sole focus. And you're trying to do, but being patient is very hard in life.
Well, it's so interesting to hear you say that, Meb, because looking from the outside in at your career, spanning, with such great longevity, I would look at it and say, well, there's someone that understands the virtue of patience and has outworked it really well, but you feel like you're always learning and you've got room to grow in that department. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think longevity is very important. Doing the small things, that makes the big difference. In the long run, sometimes you're doing the stretching before you go for a run, in hoping that you don't get injured, or you do the drills afterward if it's even cold, or you feel like hungry, or feel like you just want to go in the shower, but you do it anyways because the drills, the stretches, and nutrition all adds up, to give you the longevity for running. And then if you can stay consistently without getting injured, sometimes you take shortcuts, and it kind of comes to hunt you. So it's very difficult to find that balance. But I think the longevity for me has been paying attention to small details. So hopefully we'll become big dividend payer in the long run.
And certainly your career, speaks to that longevity. Has that approach to the small things, has that always been with you from the outside in, having just finished the audio version of 26 marathons? I feel like you never cut a corner. If the session was to do X, then you would do X unless there was a given reason to not do the full session. Has that always been Meb Keflezighi, or was that picked up through someone, Coach Bob Larson or mentors, or has that just always been in you? If you're going to do it, you're going to do it properly and not cut corners? Oh,
I think that was my childhood thing. My parents always says, if you're going to do it, better do it right, whether it's cleaning the couch or bathroom or chores around, and keep doing it and do it right, because we humans will make mistakes, but don't make the same mistakes twice. So knowing that, I took that to my athletic ability and my academics when I was high school and college. And in high school, Coach Ed Ramos made us do push-ups and sit-ups before the workouts were over. It's not over until you do those things, whether it's 50 push-ups, 125 sit-ups, and you just don't run 5 miles and say, I'm done. You do the stretching, you do the weights, and then eventually Ron Tabb, who was my mentor also in high school, helped me with that, and then Coach Bob Larson, for the longevity that we had, he saw, Coach Larson just said, what have you done in high school? And it seems to be working. We're just going to gradually improve on that. So it wasn't like my way or the highway by any means. But eventually, I think when things come in easy, and, for which running has done that for me, and I maybe have gotten away from it a little bit. But the drills that I talk about, Meb for More, that was my other book, all those things, they were relearned after that I had 2007 trials. I worked extremely hard to be able to win my first marathon title, and push, but then eventually got me into trouble. So I have to relearn how to walk. I have to relearn how to do the small things. I think there was a guy named Dan Pfaff, who is a coach for sprinters. I went and saw him because Terrence Mahan, Ryan Hall's coach, Adina Castor's coach in the past, kind of suggested that I see him. And then every day since then, I just stick to it, because us distance runners tend to go linear, just go one way forward, and I have to relearn on how to do all those things. But I got away with it. I knew it, but then I got away from them, and then obviously after that, my career took another resurgence of it.
Yeah, so you've always had that. If you're going to do it right the first time from your childhood, but then you've also had the learning and the reminder through the pitfall of injury that you have to stick on these things. And on your childhood, Meb, I know it's well documented, but I was astonished to learn you're one of 10 children, and obviously you immigrated across from Eritrea to the US, I believe, your family in 1987, from humble East African upbringing. One of 10 children, I imagine you had to do things right to get some semblance of attention.
I guess so. People often say, I run to the refrigerator. Some people joke around, when did you start running? When you have 10 brothers and sisters, you probably run to the refrigerator with the first food. But no, we've been a blessing. I have a half-sister also, Ruth. That's the reason why we ended up in San Diego from my dad's side. And she's the reason we ended up in San Diego. And her mom was a big part of our journey, getting us out of Eritrea to Italy with the help of my dad and Dr. Brundici, their boss. But I think, 6 born in Eritrea, 1 born in Italy, 3 born here. Parents expected the best out of ourselves. We were, we have tutors, so those brothers became the tutors for the young ones. So it was a linear that follow your older brothers, you will be successful, and that's what we did. And sometimes maybe the young ones get the pressure, too much pressure, because when you do, when you taught to do things right, no shortcuts, and then also when you begin from humble beginning, no electricity, no running water, didn't watch TV didn't see TV until I was 10 years old. And the young ones, they got their shows and things like that. We have to overcome barriers, languages, from culture and also language and dialect. It was difficult. But at the same time, you don't take things for granted when you come from poor area, and you want to maximize your talent to the fullest, because we have cousins and relatives and uncles and aunts that they wish they had that opportunity. So any opportunity that provides, you try to work harder, not just for yourself, but for your community, for your family, and all that. So it's been a blessing for us. The brothers have done very well in terms of career, and it's very, it shows, you don't see all the beautiful about refugees. Everybody excels, but we hope to be a metaphor for not giving up and the American dream, where you can work hard and achieve something great.
And if I think about Meb, I think about exactly what you just said, Meb, and that is maximizing your talent to the fullest. Even prior to listening on the audio version to 26 marathons, I thought that of you. Here's a gentleman, a runner that was gifted with some great talent and made the most of that in every way. But after reading/listening to 26 marathons, it was really impressed upon me even further that, the highs, the lows, they certainly came, but you were determined, whether it's your farewell marathon, whether it's your final Olympic Games that didn't go to plan because of sickness, that you were going to run every meter or every mile of every race and give it your all.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, I think that's one of the reasons people kind of connect with me, because I acknowledge I do have the talent to run, but at the same time, I didn't win every race there have been. I only won New York, Boston, and the Olympic trials, and the Olympic silver medal, if you count second as a big win. But other than that, I've done 26 marathons. But what people respect is that you give it your all that day. Sometimes you have food poisoning and you barely can make it to the finish line, but you did. Or your injury happened and your mind says go, but your body says no way. And you struggle through that. And you come across with Mike Cassidy in the 2015 New York City Marathon, 2013 New York City Marathon. People respect that, because everybody struggles. We all have different abilities, different talents, but that moment, you have to seize the moment, and you have to appreciate that, hey, I didn't win, but I gave it my best, and it helps you elevate to the next one. And just as similarly, 2012 Olympic Games in London, I was struggling. I was having a tough day, and my goal was top 3 or top 10. Clearly, I was in 21st place, and I'm like, people often ask me, do you enjoy where you run or the scenery? I said, absolutely not. I'm more concerned about my competition. But that day, I'm like, this would be a good cathedral to drop out and enjoy it and get ready for New York City Marathon that you already signed up. You're not going to get your goals, and then you come to reality and say, hey, I'm wearing that USA jersey, the Olympics. How many people love to be there? And if I'm going to tell my daughters to get the best out of themselves, dropping out is not the best. They're waiting in the finish line. So no matter what, just get to the finish line. I was thinking maybe I would get 50th or worse. But amazingly, when you think positive in the moment and you made up your mind, you're going to do something that to get to the finish line, the positive thinking can't overtake the negative. And amazingly, I came in 4th place, and that was huge. That gave me that. I said, overcome challenges, overcome adversity, and then said, you know what? If I can just, I still got it. I still had to make another Olympic team. That made me think positive. I could win New York or Boston, which I ended up winning Boston 2 years after that. So sometimes you got to be in the moment and get to that finish line, and it will teach you something you never knew you were within yourself.
And 2012, the significance of that was, you'd been you know, you'd missed the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games due to an injury-plagued build-up to that. So that was really a statement to come back, make your third Olympic team, having won the trials at 37 years of age and place fourth. Obviously, after picking up that silver medal in 2004. So it's a beautiful example. Meb, when did you first become aware of the talent that you had? Was there a catalytic moment growing up where you thought, oh my gosh, I've really got something here?
Absolutely, Brad. I mean, being an immigrant, came to the United States to educational opportunities, but it was a physical education class that it was in 7th grade. Coach Lord, my PE teacher, said, if you run hard, you're going to get A or B, but if I see you mess around or goof around, you're going to get D after the whole class. It wasn't around the track either. It was just about a softball course or middle of the campus and then finish in a baseball field. And eventually, I end up running 5:20, and he says, "You're going to go to the Olympics." But been an immigrant and not seen TV until I was 10 years old. I was 13 at the time, and I never seen an Olympic on TV or one not. He says, "You're going to go to the Olympics." I'm like, "Did I get my A? Did I get the T-shirt? That says Roosevelt Junior High Club T-shirt." But people saw that right away, and then in high school, in my yearbook, people always wrote, "We're going to see you in the Olympics. You know, we're going to see you." At the bigger events, you can write your own scholarship to whatever you want to go because they saw my athletic excel, and I was a very good student. Even though the SAT were not easy for me in terms of the work ethic or doing the work, I was on top of things. And then probably was like 1997 that I said, "Oh, can become a reality." But before that, it was all about academics, and I ended up winning 4 NCAA titles, which is collegiate titles. In 97, both in cross country, track, indoor and outdoor. I won 4 NCAA titles in 1 year, and I said, maybe this is something that I could do professionally. But before that, as growing up, when I was in Italy, living in Italy for a year and a half, I thought I'd be a soccer player. Even when I came to the United States, before soccer was popular, I thought I'd be a soccer player. My nickname was Pele, but eventually the running took over my 9th grade year, where I wanted to have sole focus on the sport. But up to that, I played soccer, and my passion is soccer, in fact. But running was the decision that I made because the opportunity to provide, you have no official telling you when to put you in the game, when to pull you out. Running once the gun goes off, I think it's one of the fair and square in the sport. There's no defense. You just gotta watch in it, and I was willing to work very hard, and amazingly, I think I have made the right decision.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm smiling when I hear that you say that nothing can stop you. Well, a lot of things did try and stop you, be it stomach bugs or lost luggage or missed flights or even air breathe strips that were meant for your nose being left in your shoe. And I won't spoil all the fun of 26 marathons, but if you're listening, I encourage you to get the book. There is many things that tried to stop Meb Keflezighi over the professional career. Meb, before we touch on the career highlight, which there's so many of, where do you feel your genes come from? I mean, obviously a big family. Was there any running lineage in your bloodline?
Brad, that's hard to say because my parents did not have opportunities that I had, but because of third world country, my dad was a farmer. My mom, oh my goodness, I hear the story when my first book run. When I wrote that, I got to know my parents a lot because my mom, with 6 kids by herself, my dad was in Italy, and we were separated for 5 years. So I remember my mom used to go 98 kilometers or close to 100 meters on her foot, to be able to take the cows back to my mom's village instead of my dad's village because there was no hay or there's no food for the animals. She might have gotten a ride back on the bus, but she would haul the baby that she's breastfeeding and then another one next to her because they can't be without her. So my mom is amazing. I talk a lot about my dad, but equally they've been the best they can. My dad was, vaccination for animals. He used to do that. He was a very strong man to like oxen and things like that to stop them and make sure they take the shots and things like that. I mean, but, they used to walk. They used to do, not formally athletics, but miles and miles. And I wish they had those chances or those opportunities that many of us have in the first world country, in the developed country that we have. But I can't tell you that will came from this, but I mean, hearing their story, if you really get a chance to read Run to Overcome, I talk about that a lot, about their sacrifices and willing to do things, but they never played sport because sport was not normal in Eritrea, still is not. When I go run sometimes and that there were in the villages, people say, what happened? Did you miss the bus? Or what happened? Your heart is going to explode. Why are you doing this to yourself? But because it's not common. Here we are used to it since not kindergarten, but middle school or high school or college, or we see our neighbor run and things like that. But, the Kenyans and the Ethiopians, and sometimes they do it, it's more developed now, known, but before it was like, they didn't have a choice. They just thought maybe they missed the bus, or they got to go to the next village, or to send a message, or to call somebody, or go visit somebody. So all those things they're still vivid in some countries.
Yeah, well, that really does give some great context, and I'm certainly putting Run to Overcome on my reading list, Meb. So thank you for sharing. It surprises me that given your success and fellow, other countrymen from Eritrea in the distance running space, that it still doesn't have, a large prominence in the landscape. Obviously, the situation is different in terms of opportunities, but has your success created a greater awareness in your home country or your homeland of your birthland, I should say, of Eritrea?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was the first one that kind of made a name a little bit in 1997 when I won NCAA titles. And before that, Eritrea was first time in the Olympics in 2000. Wow. With a short time, they had made a lot of gain, with having 5 people in the Olympics in Sydney, Australia. And then eventually there's Sanai Tadesse getting a bronze medal at the 10K in 2004. And then he went out to set world records in the half marathon and winning cross country and world championship medals. But then you have Germay Gebrselassie, who recently won the world championships in in China, when it was in China, and then also New York City Marathon. So, yeah, I mean, I was, one of the first ones to kind of be a trailblazer or pioneer. But other than that, I think people know about it. They have reported on it. We have television now, but sometimes in the villages, they don't have those things. So when you go to a very rural area, they know a lot about Zersanai, or they might not know it's a sport because, depends how aware or educated they are, whether, there's no newspaper, sometimes not everybody can read and things like that. And then, whether they hear radio or there's no TV there's no electricity. So it's just kind of, but at the biggest, like the capital and others and people from all over the country who have immigrated from Eritrea, take a lot of pride in those guys and myself to be able to just say, hey, there's a Eritrea, also Meb, who was born in Eritrea and grew up in the United States and has made, so they want us to be a good role model. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I think it's always so encouraging to see, nations get lifted on the back of their sporting stars, particularly for the children, developing and growing, just to be able to have a beacon of hope of what's possible. Meb, in terms of what's possible, you need a book to capture the highs of your career, and that's exactly what 26 marathons, amongst so much more, touches on. But for you, Meb, of all the accolades, 4 times Olympian, record holder, NCAA titles. I believe you're the only runner in history to have a New York Met Marathon championship, Boston title, and also Olympic marathon medal. But this is a very difficult question, but at the moment, this stage of your career, you're a few years beyond, on the other side of retiring from professional running. What to you rates head and shoulders above the most memorable moment of your career, and why?
Brad, thanks for listening to all those accolades. But, everything was a highlight at one point or another, just because when you are at the league championship, you never know you're going to be Olympic medalist or make an Olympic team or win New York or Boston. You think, if I can make it to the state championship, win the state championship, when that comes, that's the best thing in the moment. But fortunately for me, it gets gotten better and better over the years, and at the NCAA level, the USA levels, and at the world level. But the one that stands out the most for me is the win at the Boston Marathon, because what was online, having had the bombing in 2013 and to be able to overcome and challenge yourself and you have the vision, you want to do it. And, I was 2 weeks shy of my 39th birthday. I didn't have less than 1% chance to win. And, but 36,000 other people wanted to do something great or significant at Boston Street. They wanted to change that the resilience of not going to give this up, and then to be able to come and to be the first American to win it in 31 years. The moment said it all for me. In my life, I changed since. Not that didn't change after winning silver or winning New York, which is my personal Olympic medal, because I didn't go to Beijing to defend my title. So that's the way I've looked at it. But, to top it off in 2014, on April 21st, 2014, it was try to describe it in words, but it was the most meaningful victory in my career, just because it was greater than running. It was more a healing process. It was more to unite the sport that we all love. And 36,000 deep people wanted to do something positive. And I just had the great honor that God gave me the opportunity to be able to come across them first. And what a wonderful tribute it is. And to look up to the heavens and say, hey, I did it for all of us. And to have the victim's name, nobody told me to write the victim name, and I know there was a greater purpose for me, something intuition or conscious, you could call it, that I wrote those numbers, the victim's name, and I wanted to write it bigger with a Sharpie, but as elite athlete, they tell you at the meeting, don't write anything, don't tamper with the sponsors and things like that. But I did wrote it with a Sharpie, enough visible enough. Once people saw that, it went viral, and to carry them through that, it was just a big success in my career.
And, as you say, you struggle to put words to it. And I'd agree, if you are yet to see the finish of the Boston Marathon 2014, do jump over to YouTube. I was spending time looking at it again last night. It is in my mind, Meb, one of the most pure, emphatic, but, just emotional victories I can remember in modern day sport. There's so much more to it than just a medal around your neck. As you say, it united a healing running world. It united a hurting America in so many ways. And what's astounding to me, Meb, is you did that. I think you were 38, turning 39 at the time. It was your marathon PB, 2:08:37, and those two Kenyan runners came within 6 seconds of you at one point on that course. And Bob Larson, Coach Larson, he said you really had to hold your technique together, and you just put on a masterclass of maximising your potential on the day.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was, Boston being point-to-point course. I had no idea that they were, I know they're going to chase me at one point, but I was willing to, put the hurt on them or to make them earn it. And I kept pushing as just Coach Larson, you alluded to. Yeah, I had to work all those drills that I did and mechanics, chin down, short strides, going uphill, more arm action. I mean, you got to think of that, when you're at almost 26 miles, your brain is not working as proper as it should be. But fortunately for me, I did. And I finally got to the turn on Hereford. I just sprinted as hard as I can to try to make the gap look bigger by the time he makes the turn. So, it's not over to the tape, touches your chest, obviously. And I was thinking the same thing and just kept pushing and pushing. I just felt blessed that God gave me this opportunity to do something and to be able to just pull for all of us. And but yeah, mechanics is very important. And you got to be in the moment. And I was, like you said earlier, I was 2 weeks shy of my 39th birthday, and it was the most stacked field and less than 1% chance of winning. But you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your team and then your training. And it wasn't the fittest I ever been, let me tell you that. But I ran a personal best because I was digging deeper than myself. And Boston is not known to be unless you have a tailwind, to be a fast course. But, I always believe, Coach Larson, I always believed that I could run 2:06 or maybe 2:07, 2:08 in Boston. But, the clock was ticking and it came at the perfect time. The only time I ever run under 2:09, I have like 6 or 7 2:09s or close to 9 maybe even. But that day meant a lot, and I was just delighted to be able to run my personal best, which is still my best time ever.
Yeah, what a day amongst so many other great days. 2009 New York, as I said at the top of the show, and so much more. Meb, from the highs to the lows, before we jump over to the learnings, what was the lowest day? What has been the lowest day of your career? You have endured injury, sickness, the list goes on. One thing that I just am so in admiration of is you've never had a fall from grace, Meb Keflezighi. You're an athlete that's gotten through your career unscathed, largely due to the character that you have. But to you, what's the darkest day of your career been? The day that you thought, this is just the end of my career?
Two things stand up. I think it was November of 2007, when I didn't make the Olympic team, and that put it in perspective. My good friend Ryan Shea, who you can read more in the book, that a good friend of mine that trained in San Diego and Mammoth, passed away of cardiac arrest. That kind of mentally, physically, and emotionally, that was tough. The other time probably would have been is when I was let go by Nike, and I went a month without a shoe contract, and here you are, a New York champion and silver medalist. You think somebody would pick you up, but nobody picked me up, and I went from until August 1st with no contract. Of Skechers signed me up, but those were tough, and I'm going through that right now in life in general. There's always something else, but I hope to learn from those to be able to apply to real life. But I think that when I rode the 26 marathons, it's not only about running, but life is full of curves that you never know what's coming around the corner, and I'm trying to adjust what I learned to the marathon to my real life. And, right now it's a tough time for me personally, but on the personal level, but you know what, you keep pushing and pushing to be the best you can. So
the learnings from your running career, extend over to obviously life, as you say, and certainly I'm 38 years of age, Meb, and I've learnt that, challenges will come. It's no surprise when they do, but it's never easier. And I think some of the lessons, as you say, you can pull from your athletic years really do speak to that. Just keep going, stay patient, persevere, and keep going. But the story, Meb, of Nike letting you go, as you say, with the accolades that you have was an eye opener for me, listening to 26 marathons already in the book. But Skechers, when they picked you up, one of the things that stands out is the breathe strip, the little nose strip. Can you just spend a minute just to touch on what happened there? Because the dilemma that you faced, you're in your new shoes, Skechers, who have been such a great supporter of you. And if I think about Meb, apart from maximising potential and great career longevity, I think of Skechers. But Meb, can you put listeners in perspective with what happened I believe it was maybe the 2011 New York Marathon? You're in your new shoe sponsor finally, and what happens from there?
Yeah, I just wore Skechers for the first time in my marathon, and you think you're ready to go, but I usually put my nose strip on my warm-up pockets, but the pants that I had did not have pockets, or even the jacket didn't have warm-up, so I can't go without my chapstick and my nose strip to the starting line. So I put them in the racing flats. And once I put the racing flats, the chapstick came out, and the nose strip never came out. And imagine now you are the only Skechers athlete running at the New York City Marathon. And, I stopped at mile 21 or 22 to throw up. And I thought about contemplating taking my shoes off and whatnot. But I was in 2:06 pace that I was going. And I said, deal with it. But I realized that nose strip was there on mile 1. So I'm like, to touch my nose. And I said, oh my gosh, the thing that's bothering me on my foot is the nose strip from when I left it there. But, just deal with it. And then, it was a struggle. It was really, really a struggle. But even as an elite athlete, we do make mistakes, we humans. And then I ran a personal best that day. I pointed to the clock as I came to the New York City Marathon finish line. I ran 2:09:13, a couple seconds faster than I won New York City Marathon. I was so ecstatic, but I got foot infected the next 3 weeks. And I had the Olympic trials in 2012 in January in Houston. And I had like 69 days total, but 48 days or so to just start walking. And, those things are very challenging. But at the same time, you never lose fitness. If you have your fitness there, you just have to retrieve it, have confidence in your abilities and in your training. And amazingly, I wasn't trying to run 2:06 in the trials. I was just trying to qualify, and it was amazing to run another personal best and head down to what's called London Olympics. It was but yeah, it was embarrassing. You can say, hey, here's that. I didn't put it on social media. I didn't complain about it, because can you imagine the hit that Skechers would take? But it was not the shoes. It was the nose strip that got me to it. But most people would say that would have been a Skechers fault. But I kind of bit my tongue and kept going forward, and it paid off amazingly.
And I really think it just speaks to the honourable character you are. But it certainly would have looked like that if you stopped mile 1 over the Verrazzano's Narrows Bridge and you're fiddling around with his shoe. Well, the world's looking on going, Meb's got a shoe problem. This is his new shoe sponsor. So you really took one for the greater good that day, Meb.
Similarly, even when I was running the Boston 2014, when I was hurting pretty bad, I know that wound started when I was a Nike athlete in 2007, but the 2011 did the damage. And then so the damage has been going on for me since 2007, and 2011 got renewed again. But I was hurting so bad in 2014, but I said, you know what? The weight of the nation is on my back. I got to do it. And at mile 24, when the guys were closing on me, I felt like throwing up. But all I could do was kind of burp in, keep it in and then keep going. But because it was so close that they're going to catch me, you can't go to the side on your knees and start throwing up. So I just took one for take one burp and take it in and then just keep going. So they won't realize that I'm having issues. So yeah, the marathon hurts. It always hurts. It always feels like, why am I doing this? But at one point or another, just gotta, are you willing to take the pain a little bit longer than others?
And, some of my favourite quotes from 26 marathons are about the marathon. And you write, marathon, it can hate you or love you. It will make you go through misery or experience the greatest joy. and you wrote that there's a point in every marathon that you, Meb Keflezighi, wanted to stop in every marathon. And I certainly haven't run 26, but I've run a few. And I think, being honest, I can relate to that as well. It really is a great test of the human condition, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, thank God for short memories, but you go through the ups and downs, and then you finish the marathon. You're like, you ask yourself, why did I do that for? But, short memory kind of serves you well. And then you're like, 2 weeks later or 3 weeks after the run, you're like, oh, I want to sign up for another marathon or things like that. But yeah, I mean, in the race, you can be like, oh, this is the worst thing. You go into the bad patch, and then all of a sudden you get into that finish line. You're like, I'm glad I did it. And, you can love it and hate it and go through misery, but still do it. You still come back a month later or 5 months later or a year later to do it, but thank God for short memory.
You're listening to 4 times US Olympian, Olympic marathon medalist, Boston and New York marathon champion, Meb Keflezighi, sharing around his highs, lows, and learnings from his illustrious career. Support for today's show comes from the Gold Coast Marathon. Just like the Physical Performance Show, the Gold Coast Marathon encourages runners of all ages and abilities to push their boundaries and strive to complete a personal challenge. The Gold Coast Marathon is held annually on the first weekend in July and is a must-do event for any budding athlete, weekend warrior, or family looking for a challenge to complete together. Run for the good times at the Gold Coast Marathon. Visit goldcoastmarathon.com.au. The Gold Coast Marathon really has an event for everyone, and here is a little snippet of a conversation I recently had with Gold Coast Marathon race director Cam Hart.
Firstly, you need to get your body in top physical shape. So get some advice on that. See a physiotherapist or someone in that line of work to make sure that your body is capable of going to 42 kilometres. It is a long way. Second, get some mental advice, get some sports psychology advice, and that could be just through YouTube clips or otherwise. But you really need to work out how to get in the mindset of how to run the event, how to prepare for it, because it will get tough, and you'll need the mental aptitude to get over the line. And the third tip would be make sure that you look after your health and nutrition to make sure that you're physically able to have a fuel source on the day. You can carry through the event. Train with an electrolyte, train with a gel if you want to take them, and make sure that you're practiced and prepared to get right through to the marathon. If you've never done one before, your body won't be used to it, so you need to make sure your training's right and you eat right and prepare yourself for it.
Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio. We exist to help you get back to your physical best following injury. We want everyone who walks through the doors of Pogo Physio to complete their rehabilitation, get back to their physical best, and in doing so, cross the physio finish line. In order to get there, we do not want to see you for a single session more than what you require or a single session less. We just want to ensure that you cross your physio finish line and get back to your physical best. To find out more about Pogo Physio's award-winning and unique services, including our very popular monthly fixed-fee rehabilitation packages, jump over to pogophysio.com.au. For now, let's jump back with 4 times US Olympian and running superstar Meb Keflezighi. Meb, one of the things I'm very passionate about, we're shifting over to the learnings, the highs, the lows, the learnings, is seeing runners continue to run through their lifespan. I'm a sports physiotherapist by trade, and the health benefits are enormous for people to continue to be active, not just running, but in this context, we're speaking about running. Longevity is a hallmark of your career. You did things into your 40s that no runner had done. You set US records in the Masters. marathon distance. You know, you won Boston just shy of your 39th birthday. You went on to the 2016 Olympic Games where, despite stomach upsets, you know, you still performed incredibly well. Meb, you write in 26 Marathons this: so much of successful aging in running and life is acknowledging what has changed, while not letting those changes define you. In terms of pursuing your goals, they will change, but the value of pursuing them won't. Ask, are my goals reasonable? And then you go on to say, right, this: age is just a number. If you learn to listen to your body and adapt to its changing needs. So, Meb, can you distill your one key piece of advice on how to have great longevity in terms of physical activity, specifically running?
Two things. I think nutrition is important because as we get older, our metabolism slows down. So I'm not saying starve yourself, but choose wise of what you eat. And two is train smart. I mean, we need to recover. We can't go day in and day out. I would say, in fact, I recommend run 1 mile less. If you're going to run 6 miles, run 5 miles and use that mile time, whether it's 8-minute pace or a 10-minute pace or 12-minute pace, use that before and after to stretch. So don't go the extra mile like what it used to be done, and just be consistent. And said that, I think, learning is, people need to run on soft surface. You don't have to run every single day up a hill, run from home. Sometimes maybe you have to get a ride down the hill so you don't start on the downhill, damage your knees. But go run on soft surface. If you can run dirt, grass, something soft, you're gonna add years to your running. But you have to make that decision. Maybe it might mean a 1 mile or 2 mile drive to somewhere, or you have to do, be able to just enjoy the running as much as you can with friends. And you have to adapt to the new things, and don't compare yourself. Is the other final thing. Don't compare yourself to what I used to do. No, do what you are able to do now.
Wow, so much wisdom there. Meb Keflezighi's 3 longevity tips: 1, nutrition, train smart, and 3, don't compare. And that word consistency, one of the other key phrases I took from 26 marathons was consistency, not killer workouts, is the key.
Just be you, the same person, and do the workout, and the workout will give you who you are, and keep doing them consistently. And once you do that, you're going to be okay. It's going to take care of itself.
Great. Meb, you did shift at one point, I believe, from a 7-day cycle to a 9-day training cycle to just give that extra day in between hard workouts. You'd have to reflect and say that was a positive change you made to your training load.
Yeah, that kind of goes with the same hint that we just talked. Train smart. It's not every day that you need to go hard. Just for me was obviously as I got 35, 36, my age the recovery was not as easy. I wasn't recover as much, and I need to be smart because I don't want to get injured. When I get injured, I can't get to the sideline. So I realized if I can have tempo, intervals, or long run, those are the 3 key essential workouts. I don't have to try to squeeze them all in 1 week. I just need to have more gaps in between. So instead of doing, recovery days or relative to terms, but I started doing, like if I did Monday, I would take Tuesday and Wednesday somewhat easy, and then Thursday go hard, and then 2 days easy, and then go the next day hard. So that way it built up really well. And then sometimes even when you do that, especially as a marathoner, the penultimate to the hard day, the day before the hard day, you can be a somewhat medium day. It doesn't have to be easy. It could be hard, easy, medium, and then hard. You will realize that because your body will be much more fresher because you took that. Whereas if you do intervals, it would be a killer workout, which leads to injuries. But to have it medium, maybe pick up the last 2-3 miles, only going to probably help you be ready for the next day.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom in that, and certainly you're a great example of the merits of it. Meb, before we do a performance round, a series of rapid-fire questions, there's 2 other learnings that were really impressed me from 26 marathons. The first is putting Murphy's Law to work. I've never thought of putting it to work in a positive sense. I've always thought of Murphy's Law as, well, if something will happen, it will happen. Can you just briefly speak to how in your career you put Murphy's Law to work for you? Yeah,
Murphy's Law would expect when you expect the best, something else happen. And that was the 2006 New York City Marathon. You think everything, direct flight, how can things get lost? You don't expect to get things lost on a direct flight, on a transfer or connecting flight, absolutely. But my luggage got lost. And then here I are again, you are at a very reputable restaurant, chicken. You can never go wrong with chicken for dining, lunch, or dinner. I had chicken fettuccine, and the next thing you know is you had a food poisoning. So, you think that you can do all right, and then something will always go Murphy log, something will always go wrong. So, but it's a predictor, obviously you try to avoid all risk the best that you can, but, nothing in life is perfect. Nothing will go perfect. 99% of the time it's blessing, but be ready for it.
Yeah, and I mean, you would not check luggage in. You learned that let's minimise that variable. You'd use hand sanitizer, not to be obsessive compulsive, but just to once again try and put the law to work for you rather than against you, which I thought was brilliant. And Meb, one of the other key learnings, I'd never really thought of it this way, but is the importance of having backup goals. So obviously everyone goes into a competition or an event, a world major, maybe recreationally, competitively with a target time or a goal. But can you just speak briefly to this backup goal concept?
Well, I think that's what we learn in high school and college and as a professional, especially with Coach Larson. He would give you A to Z, this can happen and then this can happen and this happen, be ready to act. Obviously, when everything is merry and doing really well, you want to win. But if you can't win, then be top 3. If you can't be top 3, how many people would love to be at the NCAA level, at the World Major Marathon top 10? So you have all those backup, or the Olympic Games. So that, it's not all or none. So if you can't win, say expected you are ranked to win number 1. And if you're not getting that, what do? Finish 20th? No, you want to finish as high as possible. You fight for that, and then even things that are not going your way. So those are the ABC, goals that you should have. And, sometimes maybe it's hard to apply this in life, because you want to be able to commit to something and commit 110%. But yeah, I think those are the essentials to say, hey, I'm going with the A to win, B, top 3, C, top 10, and D, you know what? I want to finish as high as I can, top 15. Depends what, whether it's prize money or All-American or qualifying for the next race. You want to be able to do that, especially in a marathon, because you might not see another marathon another 4 or 5 months. So you want to utilize that to just have, go for it and then and have those alternative plans.
And are you going into the event with those preset goals, or are you thinking of those as the race is unraveling?
When I was in college, we would have discussed those things, but, you're raveling those things in the moment. It's like sometimes it's going better than you expected, and you might not get you might be first time running the marathon. You can't, maybe not, you think you're winning it, but if you can't win it, you said, okay, maybe top 4, maybe top 10. So you have those things that just, Coach Larson and I always plan for the best scenarios and a medium scenario or worst scenario, and that's probably why you never see me hardly ever DNF or did not finish. And because we still think, it's better to finish than not finish for those many reasons. Because in the running community, you're, as a professional athlete, you are as good as your last race. If you DNF, you don't want to get into the habit of that. But if you finish like I did in 2005 New York City Marathon, I DNF at the World Championships, but I didn't say my season is over. I said I worked extremely hard. Probably didn't have more than 99 miles that week, the whole build-up, but I ended up getting 3rd place behind Hendrik Ramallah, the defending champion, and Paul Turgot, who ended up winning. He was a world record holder. So I decided I got him to the mile 24 and a half or mile 25. That taught me if I can stay healthy, I can compete against the best and the best in the world. But the prelude to that is all the physical therapy. I partial ruptured my quads at the Helsinki World Championship. So you have to overcome that. You got to get fit and compete. So you have those ideas that you want to have, going to the starting line. I wasn't thinking, I'm going to destroy it, I'm going to win it. No, it's like, okay, let me just get me to that finish line as healthy as possible and hopefully be in the podium or be in the top 10 mindset. But eventually that turned out to say, hey, if I can stay healthy, I want to be able to beat those guys, or I want to be able to win New York City Marathon.
Yeah, I suspect I know the answer here, Meb, but was there a backup goal for that magical day in Boston in 2014? as you run into the line?
I talk about the book. I think my goal was to win.
Yeah.
3 or a personal best. And I really thought it was going to be my last Boston Marathon ever. I didn't think I was going to come back to it, because of what happened in the past. I said, this is it. That 4th place at the Olympic Games opened the door for me. So 2013, I was injured, and I came back in 2014. I said, this is it. As I'm a big fan of Eminem, One Shot, One Opportunity song, and I just said, you know what, this is it. Go for it. Go for the win. If you can't do that, top 3. If you can't do that, run a personal best. And that came in really handy, having those set mindsets, because on mile 5, when they were trying to slow down, otherwise, if I was going to go for a win, I would have waited, make a move. Like I tell Coach Larson I was going to do in the last 5K of it. But if I'm going to having that backup plan to run for personal best, I can't be run a personal best by hanging out with those guys and going slow. I said, I'm going to go push it. If they catch me, they catch me. But if they don't catch me, I'm going to finish personal best. I'm going to finish in the top 3, or I'm going to go for the win. And you have those mindsets going through your head, when you're running. So yeah, those the 3 goals. People often ask me, did you plan on winning? I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
Goal 1 was to win, and goal B was to be top 3, and third plan was to run a personal best.
You're listening to Meb Keflezighi, sharing around the highs, lows, and learnings of his stunning running career. If you missed last week's episode, an expert edition featuring strength and conditioning performance coach for the Chinese Athletics Association, jumping and sprinting athletes, Joseph Coyne, here's a little snippet of what you missed.
Even middle distance runners, or marathoners, doesn't matter. You've got to do some speed work in the gym. It can't all be heavy lifting. Once you get to a certain amount of strength, any increases in that strength, it's probably not going to benefit you anything, or maybe not benefit you much. You might law of diminishing returns, you know what I mean? Once you get to a certain strength threshold, then you've got to start looking at, hey, what else can I be doing? Maybe I need to start moving things a whole heap faster rather than just concentrate on getting more kgs on the bar.
To tune into the full episode, jump over to iTunes or wherever you enjoy your podcast from and enjoy the full episode. While there, also peruse the archives dating right back to surf life-saving Ironman champion Ali Day. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured performer, running star Meb Keflezighi, sharing around the highs, lows, and learnings from his career. Meb, in the closing sort of time we have, let's run through a brief performance round. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions? This can be a session for your day.
I'm a marathon. Be patient with me.
Training session most disliked, Meb?
Oh, dislike is the first tempo run. The first tempo run is tough.
Training session most loved?
I love doing intervals. I love doing intervals.
Favorite pre-race meal?
Spaghetti, red sauce, meatball.
Who is the athlete Meb Keflezighi most admires and why?
I grew up admiring Haile Gebrselassie from Ethiopia. I think he was very balanced, from the 1500 meter all the way to the 10K, and then eventually compete with him in the marathon, but he had the range.
Toughest competitor, Meb, you have ever raced and why?
That's a tough question because in the marathon, you don't see everybody all the time. But in the U.S., it was two guys, Alan Culpepper and Abdi Abdurrahman. We all alternate wins, I guess. And that was 2 guys that they used to go as the big 3. And in the cross country, 10K and 5K, we dueled it out, all the way from NCAA titles to the US State Championships.
Brilliant. Meb, has there been a mantra that you, over your career, consistently used while racing? Like one piece of regular self-talk?
I always say run to win, get the best out of yourself each time and every time. But what I tell myself is you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. You can close the gap. And if you're trying to catch up to the second group, and then at one point, if you are better than everybody else, it's like, make the move now and then get away from everybody.
No, brilliant. Your best recovery tip?
My best recovery tip is Generation UCAN. It's called UCAN, a product, protein, and that's been amazing for me in my career.
And I've heard you speak so positively about that. Meb, one word to describe your racing style?
Tenacious, I guess.
Nice. How would Meb describe being in the zone?
Focus and not even happening. Only when you see the replay of the video that you did something. I don't remember going to the halfway point of the Boston Marathon in 2014 at all.
Wow. When was the last time, Meb, you were in the zone?
I guess the last time I was in the zone was probably, I mean, it happens, even my recreational run when I'm thinking deep, but in the zone athletically, I think probably 2017, my last New York City Marathon.
Yeah, brilliant. And Meb, finally, the performance round here. What's the hardest session you've ever done?
I think probably Bishop in training has been Bishop, probably was like 97 degree.
Wow.
If that you what you're asking, I think I have run a mile in high school. I think it was maybe 107 degree I was doing only a mile. But I think the hottest marathon or LA trials was brutal. LA trial was very, very brutal. My tongue was so dry that, I need something to just try to get it wet as much as I can.
Wow. Meb, you are out of the performance round. You can chalk that up for this afternoon session there, your time. Meb, if you could boil everything you've learned over your really unprecedented career with such longevity, what would be the one piece of advice, Meb, that you'd give to listeners of this show to help them pursue their own physical best, if you could only boil it down to one thing?
Perseverance. Keep going, never lose hope.
Keep going, never lose hope. And you write about that in 26 marathons. Never let go of a dream.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Meb, in terms of upcoming life adventures, where might we see you popping up next, Meb? You're still very active with your foundation, race ambassadors. If we want to find out more, follow your journey, Meb, where can we get more?
Yeah, marathonmeb.com is a website, and then @runmeb is my Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, it's been an honor to represent the sport running. It has done amazing thing in my life, and I love being the ambassador for it, giving back to the sport that has done so much for me. But the Meb Foundation is still at the bottom of my heart. Maintain excellent balance through health, education, and fitness, and educate people. Every day is a learning experience. I'm not perfect, far away from perfect, but I try to learn and improve to the best that I can. And some people see that and others don't, but it is what it is. The sport has taught me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And Meb, just some words of encouragement for certain groups of people. What would be an encouraging word you'd share for the debut marathoner, the marathoner that's going to take their first marathon on in the coming 12 months?
I always tell people the hardest thing for me or anybody else is routine and putting your shoes on. I'm a morning person. I love to run in the morning, and the hardest part for anybody is putting the shoes on and go for a run. And when you come back, I know for me, I always feel proud of myself that I have done it. And I haven't met anybody that says, "Oh, that was the worst run ever. I would never do it again." It's just, you come energized, you come in different perspective person. So tie your shoes, get out the door. You don't have to go. You don't look at us as a perfect marathoners. We're not perfect, but we work hard toward that goal. And we might have to start with a block around, walking around the block, or 1 mile at a time. You don't look at the 26. I can't do 26.2. I said the same thing. There's no way I could have done it, but I've done 26 marathons. But it all started with the tiny shoes and get out the door first, whether it means for a walk or. That's what I did in 2011 after New York City Marathon when I had that breathe right problem. I have to walk for about a mile and a half on a big boot so I can just step on it. So don't be intimidated by the distance. Just go out there and go around the block. And then next time you know it's going to be a mile, and then 5K, and then 10K, and then eventually hopefully toward the 26.2 journey.
Yeah, routine and just put the shoes on. And what about the runner, Meb, that's stuck in an injury cycle, or they just feel like they're getting too old or they're past it? What would you say to encourage that runner?
Yeah, I think, go see a physical therapist or go see a doctor. If your injury is part of the sport and disappointment are part of life, I think half of the solution is diagnosing what's wrong with you. Don't do what I've done in the past. Just try to run it off. When you injure, when your hand is touching the hamstring or the Achilles or the knee or whatever, your hand is moving. That means the body and the mind is not on the same page. Something is aching. So don't say, "Oh, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel better." And you know what? When you do that, you kind of digging more hole into your training and to your coming back sooner. So get guidance. Take a day off. A day off might give you 10 weeks. It might give you a week or get you back faster than then try to push it. Oh, I was going to loosen up. It's going to loosen up by running. Once I warm it up for it and all, it's a fallacy.
Yeah.
I've done that myself, and it's not a pretty thing.
Yeah, take action. And I was, interested in the time it took you to get that diagnosis for your hip stress fracture in one of the seasons that you had there. So that's a great example of needing that accurate diagnosis. Meb, every guest of the show issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what is Meb Keflezighi's physical challenge to us going to be for the week?
Oh, my physical challenge is go for a run, but I don't do, I need to do more core. I gotten away from it. It's just one of those things that we talked about in high school and college and whatnot. I used to do the core and the push-ups and the sit-ups, and I gotten away from it. That's what I'm going to try to do.
So do more core, and looking for that. I believe Meb for Mortals has some great examples of some of your work there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Meb for Mortals has the pictures and the illustration, and the same author that I did with Scott Douglas. So yeah, it's there. I just need to, sometimes since I'm retired, I've gotten away from it. But, having a strong core or doing this exercise, plyometrics, only going to help you, whether you run 100 miles or whether you just run the recreational run the way I do it. It might even be more beneficial for the people that are running less miles because, you could do it at night or in the morning to help you be strong.
Yeah, brilliant. And Meb, very final question, and I ask this as a fellow father of daughters. What has being a dad to your three wonderful girls taught you, Meb?
Well, the kids have taught me to apply my patience. Sometimes I'm on the go and, go all the time. But what I'm learning is to be more patient with them, listen to what they have to say. And, I try to be a good dad. I'm not a perfect dad, but at the same time, listen to them and adapt. You have to adapt because now you have to bear in mind my career has been not solo effort, but catered to me. I need a physical therapist, I go to physical therapist. I need a VO2 max, I do VO2 max. I need to do long run, I need to do the long run, this and this and that. But being a dad, it's about the kids now. So, and my wife, Jordanis, has done an amazing job. Make sure I was not disturbed during that time of my training, but now I need to, adapt because it was different than I'm used to.
And there's that full circleness and a great way to finish, Meb, with coming back to patience. That's what you started our time together with. You're learning patience, and it's one thing your daughters are teaching you. So, Meb, thank you for sharing so beautifully. Thank you for the contribution as a passionate runner, someone that values physical activity. Thank you for the contribution you've made to so many thousands of people, not just in America, but worldwide, and certainly wish you all the best going into your future where you continue to make such a great contribution.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate you having me.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show. And I trust, and in fact I know, that you really enjoyed Meb Keflezighi. If you did, then please let Meb know. Let him know what it was that you took from the show, what stood out, your favourite learning, what you'll implement. Meb is very easy to find on social media at RunMeb, M-E-B. We'll also include links to videos of some of Meb's famous victories, as he outlined today, Meb's website, and all of his books, including 26 marathons, over on the show notes at pogophysio.com.au. If you've been enjoying the show, then please consider leaving a rating review over on iTunes. It certainly helps the show grow, and I always get a real thrill out of reading the reviews. A massive thank you this week to Ed Coots, who rated the show 5 stars and commented, "Absolutely love listening to the Physical Performance Show. I enjoy the interviews featuring the elites across many fields and experts in their trades. Brad always asks the questions that you want answered. Cheers, I'm tuning in every week." Ed, thank you very much for taking the time to leave that review. And if you'd like to do the same, jump over to iTunes or wherever it is that you enjoy the show from and review away. Please also consider hitting subscribe if you've enjoyed more than, say, 3 episodes of the show. Subscribing really is the best way to help this show reach more earbuds of people just like yourself who are looking to pursue and perform at their own physical best. A massive thanks, of course, to the 3 very good folk who make the show possible each week. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, and Matthew Olding on all things show graphic design. Another huge thanks to this week's show sponsor, the Gold Coast Marathon. If you are looking for an event to enjoy down under mid-year, then look no further than the Gold Coast Marathon. It's on my list each and every year, one of my favourite events, and there really is an event for everyone, ranging from the junior dashes right through to the full featured-length marathon. Who knows, maybe one day we'll see today's featured performer, Meb Keflezighi, run on the Gold Coast Marathon streets. Wouldn't that be something? Also, consider a podsy. What is a podsy? A podsy is simply a screenshot of the episode that you've been enjoying and tagging in the show at Physical Performance Show and myself at Brad_Beer. If you'd like to provide written feedback on how we can improve the show, perhaps suggest a featured guest, my email address, b.beer@pogophysio.com.au. I would love to hear from you. Lastly, if you are into running, and I suspect you may be, and you'd like to learn more about enjoying injury-free running and faster running, then as a listener of the show, we have a little gift for you, and that is 50% off my running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free, the second revised and expanded edition. If you'd like to get your hands on the 330 plus pages, then simply jump over to pogophysio.com.au, visit the shopping cart, and enter the code POGO2019 to receive 50% off the recommended retail price. Now, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, we venture from the road to the trails, and I'll bring to you a conversation that I recently had with South African trail running sensation Ryan Sandys. Ryan was the 2017 Western States Endurance Run Champion, has been the victor in the Sahara Ultra Trail Run race, the Gobi March in 2008, and the winner of the 2011 Leadville Trail 100. It's an episode you will not want to miss, so be sure to be tuning in next week to Ryan Sandys. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.